item 6A. Um, I do want to thank everyone who applies for any board and commission, and especially these two gentlemen. I did have an opportunity to sit down and meet with them. I really enjoyed the time with both of them. You know, Steve is from the East Coast, so we kind of talk a little fast sometimes because we're both from different part of the country, and I got to reminisce a little bit with Ruben about growing up in Alameda because he's close to the same age as my kid, so he kind of had the same similar experiences. Um, I do agree with my colleagues that have spoken that I think this is probably the most critical board and commission that we do have in the city. And I don't know if you all remember a guy named Paul Harvey, but he used to say, and now for the rest of the story. I mean, there was the rest of the story that I think Councilmember Ashcraft alluded to, but there was, in my opinion, a very ugly email that went around. And I know the mayor bristled a little bit at what she thought was a lack of respect for these two nominees, and why I didn't get that from any of the speakers. I think it's safe to say that, the the disgust shown towards a current planning board member in that email, I thought went way beyond the pale. So I think it's a little disingenuous to criticize some of the comments that we heard from the speakers today when you compare this ugly email that went around. And, there was some bit of it that was alluded to. The history, I think there was some talk about, well, the history is in the past, the mayor didn't do this and the mayor didn't do that. Well, the history also was that if somebody served on a commission and they asked to be reappointed, then, the courtesy was extended to them to be reappointed. So, I mean, if we're going to throw out that history, then I think it's fair that, we don't have to stick to the rest of the history. So, I mean, I'm not naive about this, and I think that none of us should be either. This process has been super politicized. So it's not really about the two candidates. It's really about, the battle that we continue to have in Alameda. And, we see the same folks line up on the same sides of different issues. And we saw that today. We saw the ACT line up and basically ask the council to approve these candidates. And we saw folks from the business community and the progressive movement and Renewed Hope say, whoa, stop, maybe we need to take a second look at this. So I think we shouldn't kid ourselves that, if we're doing this, it's a personal matter. I think we have to be clear, and we shouldn't kid ourselves that, there are votes on the council, typically a majority, that I would say are more sympathetic to the Renewed Hope, progressive, and business community than there are to the folks that don't want us to have development and want us to grow. So let's just put that out there. So that I think we have to look at these nominations in that context. So while these two gentlemen may be fine individuals, I think it would. I mean, I'm not running for mayor, so Gretchen, don't worry about that. I don't have to worry about having anything come back to bite me. But I mean, if I was the mayor, I think my preference would be that, we would bring forth more of a consensus candidate to serve on the planning board, one that the ACT is comfortable with, one that Renewed Hope is comfortable with, and one that the business community is comfortable with. We're going to have a discussion as soon as this vote is over on an important issue related to the planning board in the business community. So I would like to see that type of person brought forward. And again, I think we should not be naive about what this is about, and it's about the future of the city. And there was a LA Times article that was floating around last week about the efforts, or maybe it was the week before, going on at the state level. And if you saw the governor's press release yesterday with the speaker and the president pro tem of the Senate, there's going to be a deal on housing that's going to come down. And I think we're going to see some good things in it, like the $75 recording fee and funding for affordable housing. But I think we're also going to see some other things like Senator Wiener's SB 35. So, but that article touched on that. But if you have a chance to look at it, you go to the bottom and you could filter the cities by county. And while it's true, we have set aside the amount of housing that we're supposed to set aside in our housing element. Alameda is last in the county, 13% in meeting that requirement. So the fact that we may be technically meeting the law, but we're not really fulfilling the spirit by providing the housing that we're supposed to provide, I think is a problem. And I think that if the planning board is going to look at some of these big projects, we have to have candidates that at least have some consensus approval. And I hope that when another batch is brought forth, if these two aren't approved, that effort is